First of all, let me just explain what Google Docs is all about. Google Docs is something that you can generate your own documents. And it's been around for a long time. And the beauty of it is that it's free and it's online and it's easy to use. But then along with Google Docs, you're also going to want something called Google Drive, because that's where you can store all of these documents that you create. And so yes, it is a cloud-based storage system where you store your files securely and you can open or edit them from any device that has Google Drive. So I encourage you to search for Google Drive with a Google search, and you will find it, and you can open up an account. It's all free. So I'm going to jump right into what I do with my lesson notes. And like I said, I'm hoping this will work. You should be seeing a screen of my Google Drive, and there are some recent files up at the top here. Below are all of my different folders that I can create within the Drive as well. So I'm going to open up the stock Facebook sample lesson notes is what I'm calling it. And there are my lesson notes. And within these notes, if you notice, there's different columns. And that is because these notes were created in a different format within Google Docs called Sheets. And that is something close to most people know as Excel or numbers in pages. And that's what the beauty of Sheets is. There's so much flexibility. So I want to show you some of that. And the very first thing that you need to know about Google Drive is that, yes, they have blank documents that you can create yourself, but they have tons of templates that you can use that are super smart. And I found one that I thought would make a wonderful template for piano lessons. And so that's what I did. I modified it to use for lesson notes for my students. So what you see here in front of you is actually a template. And I then modified it for piano lessons. So the very first column right here, called Scales and Chords, this is what's so cool, is if I want to give a different type of assignment, maybe I don't want it to be scales and chords, maybe I want it to be a creativity assignment, then I can change that. So then I don't have to drop anything, or I don't have to type anything in. I just drop in the new title. Maybe I want my student to work on 5-finger patterns instead. So that column has all of those different elements, and I'll show you how that I can change those elements in just a second. Then this column right here is labeled assignments, and this is what I want them to do for the week. And if you have my Piano Teacher's Planning Kit, I've come up with a way to make my assignments here in this lesson, in these lesson notes, quite short, because of an innovative way I've come around to communicating what I want students to do with practice strategies. And so I'm not going to go into that right now, but this is where you can type in what you want the student to do for the week. Then there's any other notes that you might want to include. Sometimes it's hard to find where pieces are. So this column right here under notes is where to find these different assignments. Sometimes they're going to be in a binder, sometimes they're going to be a new piece of sheet music, sometimes they're going to be in a blue book. I try and be as easy as possible so they can find it. Then one of the things that this template also includes is this status, which I thought was kind of fun. So when I click on this, I can, maybe we didn't get to it, but I had it on my list, and I can just put not started instead. Or I can put in progress, or maybe something's been done, we finished up, and then that's just recorded there as well. And then this is a neat little feature too that I added. How long do I expect a student to practice or spend practicing that assignment during the week? And I just kind of approximate, and then I added just a little formula so that it shows how they can break up pretty much 30 minutes a day. I ask my students to practice 5 times a week, usually around 30 minutes. I usually don't time too many things though. Timing is not important. It's more what is practiced and how it's practiced. Then there's a start date. So if you click on that, you can change the date. If they had a lesson on the 18th, I can move it there. And then if I just want to I can copy and paste that date into all of those other ones pretty easily by just command copy and the command V, so command paste. And then you can also change the due date. And that's what's really neat, is if someone is working towards a longer, a piece that's due coming up in March, then I can keep that date there so we all know exactly when things need to be accomplished. And then the 30-piece challenge, if you've got a challenge going, I notice I don't have that finished until May. So we're just going to keep that assignment up and running. The other thing I put in my lesson notes is a link to a calendar that I also made in Google Docs. Yes, you can make your own calendars and color code them. Maybe that's for another time. And then I always have room for a special note where I can just write something new. This is for Jane, so I can change the name to Jane, and there you have it. So this is the practice sheet that the students will see. Now, there's other things that I can keep track of with the student. I can keep track of what they're doing with technique. I've got things divided up into 5-finger patterns and tetrachords and scales and all that kind of stuff. And then I can also keep track of what they play and where they played it, the composer. Any type of off-bench assignment, I can keep track here. And then on this next sheet, if you notice, I went through 4 different sheets within this one document. That's why it's called sheets. So the last one here is created within this template that I found. And this is where you can change. Do I want a 30-piece challenge? Maybe I don't want classical music. Maybe I want to call it romantic. Everyone's working from something from the romantic period. That's how I can change those elements so that when I go back to the assignments and, oh, there's romantic, and I can change it to romantic. So you can see how this could save you a lot of time. I just have the date up there. I can easily change that to today's date is the 12th. I can put that in there. And then let me just explain a little bit about adding a score to lessons. I always put a score in my students' assignment sheet that they see at the end of the lesson. They may not see it until they get home, but this is a great way for them to open up your lesson assignments because they're going to want to know what number they got. So Jane got a 5, which meant she went above and beyond. Like, wow, I asked her to do a certain amount and she went further than I was expecting. 4 is right on target. 3 is okay, but you could have spent more time practicing. 2 is oops, many assignments were not completed. And 1, we have to redo last week's assignment. So that's in a nutshell what these lesson notes look like. And because I'm not sure how this is all working on Facebook, I'm not going to go into depth too much, but let me just show you, this is a sample of a lesson note. Of course, you want to make these lesson notes for all your students. So you go up to File and make a copy right there, and then I can go ahead and make a copy, and I can relabel it and even put it in a different folder. I arrange all my students into different folders according to the day that they come for a lesson. And then sharing this little blue button up there, I can share it with anyone that I want to. I can type in an email address, and then I can send it to the student and just click send. I can add a note, whatever I want to. Or some parents, they're not very familiar with Google Docs. I can always do file, and I can email as an attachment, and then it will show up as a PDF, and then they can print it off that way. Most of my students and families are familiar with Google Docs because it's used so much in schools. So not many of them are surprised that I moved over to Google Docs, and I'm using this as a way to communicate lesson notes. And I do not print these out at the lesson. I want students to either read these on a device or print them out at home. Most of them, I think, just read on a device, but it kind of just depends on the family. But that's how I keep my students organized through their lesson notes. So I think I covered what I wanted to. Again, thank you for putting up with me. If this all works, it'll be a miracle. I have never done this before, and I was just trying it out. So I do appreciate your willingness to put up with me, and I hope that this was helpful. I have a Facebook group called Piano Pedagogy On and Off the Bench, And if this video works, I'll make sure that this video also gets there. But I'm more than happy to answer more specific questions there or on my Facebook page, 88pianokeys.me.